This is the first time in a while in my Wicso. Why did I have to write it? Anyway, this is the first time in Project Overload that I've done 2 videos in one day. Why? I'm bored, that's why. Anyways, as you can see, the French left the Pentagonal Alliance. They also end up leaving the Economical Alliance. And now let's just get on with the wars. First of all, a few colonies need to be sorted out. Mainly the French one. They call all troops back, and the Chinese do the same. They didn't really have any troops here, so they just got rid of them. Up here, the French didn't really invade them, so that's basically the end of it. But that was weird. Anyway, sorry. Something just came up on my thing. Anyways, now that the French are here, obviously they were already here, but now that they don't have to invade another nation in a lot of fronts, they can start invading up into the Nordics. Now these two are a bit stronger, but the Nordics mainly trying to just keep control over Poland, Copenhagen, Iceland, Northern Greenland, and their colony over here. So they aren't really focused on this colony, which leads to them being kicked out of these 5 cities. And they also begin invading up along this coast, managing to take about 2/3, I'd say, and also managing to take 2 cities. Now it's 2 cities. Anyways, as I said last episode, the red team was corrupt with power. Well, that's what the French thought. So they decided to invade them. No, they decided to switch sides. And we're going to see them actually start now. Some troops were in here until they swapped sides. So we see them begin to invade from here, as well as reclaiming some Danish lands. The Danish come down from Denmark, and eventually the entire nation is taken. The Danish take over this bit of invaded territory so that the French can focus their invading forces down here. The Danish managed to take these 2 cities as well as up here and begin invading down and around these cities, eventually managing to take them. Now that isn't good because the capital was within taking distance. And these guys know it, but they aren't taking it right now. They managed to take here and managed to encircle all of these troops. We begin slowly fleeing into the Italian Union. And eventually all of this area falls. Over here, their colony falls over to a joint French Irish force. After a while, a single landing is made that completely changes the tide of this war. The French, back in a sec. Sorry about that, I was called out for a very stupid reason. Anyways, a landing in Corsica is made, and they eventually take all of Corsica. Now this is very dangerous because, well, not dangerous, this is bad for the Italians because the capital can easily get taken. A landing in Sardinia is made. And eventually, the entire island falls. And then eventually, a landing in Tunisia is made. Anyways, eventually, all of Tunisia falls. And eventually, these Greek armies fall. Thrace regains control in their colony, and eventually the Greeks are pushed out of North Africa, and eventually the colony falls over to the Syrians. However, they give about half of it to the Irish. And eventually, the hexagonal team just begins falling apart. Anyways, up here, this area of the Italians gets cut off and falls. Eventually, Thrace manages to make a landing back in Constantinople, and eventually the Asian part is returned. Hold on. Sorry. And then European part is gained back. Down here, this colony falls. And up here, the Greeks surrender. Which is the first entire nation to surrender. Even though this is the final episode of World War III. Anyways, a landing in Syria is made. Thrace makes a landing up here, and they managed to take over here. Eventually, all of the French Union, no, all of the Italian Union, except the bordering area, except the areas that border Germany, fall over to these guys. However, the capital does like manage to stay under the control of them. Over here, the Russians just leave. They just white peace. I think that's it. They just give their occupied lands back. Not over here though. They want to keep this land. The red team loses their claimed lands over here. Eventually, every colony that is owned by the hexagonal team, no, pentagonal team, that is in Africa, that's the nations that are like actually in the war, they surrender over. Those nations being the Italians, and the red team. They're on. Nope, I forgot one more. These guys. Over here, this entire area falls. And then the Greeks fall. And eventually, after a lot more fighting. Oh yeah, by the way, the Nordics all just left before they actually had any land get taken. Any valuable land get taken. After a long fight, Berlin is taken, and the red team surrenders. And I'm going. Anyways, World War 4 is done. Goodbye.